Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about wages in Taiwan. A lot of foreign people who come to Taiwan are kind of confused how the job market works here, and struggle to find a job. I know I've kind of been in that boat myself, so I wanted to sort of explain what I know about the job market in Taiwan and also take a look at wages for different positions in Taiwan. So before we get started, it's actually the idea for this video started out when I was watching this video about why Taiwan salaries are so low. And in it, this channel is Asianometry, by the way. He talks about how Taiwan's wages have been pretty stagnant, right, since like the big economic growth in the 80s. He compares them to other uh, Asian economies and sort of compares like GDP and the money that's returned to employees. Um, yeah, it looked like pretty decently matched up. But the main ideas or points of the video is to discuss, um, the problems with Taiwan's economy and job sector and sort of what's happening and kind of explaining some of the discrepancies between, like in this case, the high salaries for people who are tenured or older and lower salaries for younger and new people. Um, yeah, and I don't have, oops, I don't have too much information about um, that since I'm not from Taiwan. So I've been working as an English teacher, and most people who are foreigners who come to Taiwan sort of take the same route to get into Taiwan. There are other ways. People who have maybe engineering backgrounds or specific technical skills or um, just tenure and skills that are needed in Taiwan can get in that way. But for looking for other jobs for foreigners can be quite difficult. Um, so first, I wanted to take a look at what the salaries or the average salaries look like in Taiwan. So this is for salaries in Taipei specifically. I also have another website here where it's salaries. I believe this one is just in general for Taiwan, so we can kind of compare to see if there's a difference, but you can just assume that in Taipei the salaries would be a little bit higher than what you would get elsewhere in Taiwan. So let's take a look at some of the positions. So content marketing. So I guess this would be like Facebook or something like that, or something to do with marketing. Um, 20,000 US dollars average median salary. So comparing this to Taiwan dollars, in a local salary, you would times this by 30. Let's just do it on the calculator here. So you would times it by 30, and then you would, let's say, divide that by 12 to get your monthly salary. So you'd be looking at about 50,000 new Taiwan dollars. That's the salary in Taiwan, the currency in Taiwan. 50,000 new Taiwan dollars. Okay, for this. For some context, I think the average salary in Taiwan is something around 40, it's about 40 something thousand, maybe 45 or 46,000 Taiwan dollars. So this would be just about average. So that's about 20. Let's jump back up to account manager. Okay, so account manager would get paid a little bit higher, about 25. Accountant, about 23,000. Okay, administrative assistant, a little bit less, 18, so that would be kind of like below your average. Architect, not very impressive either, about 18,000. Attorney, pretty good. So if you've studied law or you're looking for a job in law, you might be okay with that salary. It's sort of about over double the average salary. So if we took this in Taiwan dollars, it would be about 45 times 30 divided by 12. You'd be looking at about 112,000 new Taiwan dollars a month, which is for Taiwan actually a very good salary. But obviously, whether you're able to do this job is um, questionable, since you might need to know how local, Taiwan law works to be able to do this job. Business analyst, about average. Business development, quite high. So this about the same as attorney at about uh, oops, at about 45. So very good for business development. And you can see the salary range sort of goes quite high. So there's quite a long stretch here up in the higher end of the salary. C-level executive, I mean, you would expect this to be high, right? So nothing, nothing really to see there. Cashier, quite low. This would be about minimum wage in Taiwan, or quite close to minimum wage, which would, I think, be about 25,000 new Taiwan dollars, somewhere around there. Chef, actually quite high relative to cashier, especially for some countries, chefs aren't paid very well. So in Taiwan, I would think this is not bad. So if you are a chef, or if you are interested in cooking, if you have experience with cooking, you might be interested in working as a chef in Taiwan. Chemical engineer, quite a good salary for Taiwan, considering some types of engineering won't be very well, uh, remunerated. So this is quite good for Taiwan specifically. 45. Okay, civil engineer, even better. So clearly, some kinds of engineering, sort of these ones that are used in like industry and manufacturing, are quite highly valued in Taiwan. Content marketing, we're about back to the average. We saw this one earlier. Copywriting, quite low. So copywriting, quite a low salary. Customer support, not bad actually, considering something like the difference here between copywriting. Data analyst, about average. Dentist, very high, very, very high. Wow, 76,000 US dollars. So if you are interested in dentistry, then you will be quite well paid in Taiwan relatively to most people. That's a very, very high salary for Taiwan. And there's also quite a range within the salary. So I expect maybe starting salaries are lower, or I don't know, maybe it's spread by area or something else. Electrical engineer, about the same as the other engineering jobs we saw. So again, engineering fairly well paid, or seems to be on average. Executive assistant, not amazing. So somewhere between minimum wage and average. Fashion designer, the same story. Finance manager, so something in finance, not bad, right? Not bad. It's about just a little bit under double the average wage. Financial analyst, around average. So that's interesting, the difference there between analyst and manager, I guess to be expected. Graphic designer, not anything amazing, right? About between minimum wage and average. Hardware engineer, you would expect this to be higher, but I imagine there must be a big supply of people interested in computers in Taiwan, and maybe not as much demand to meet that supply, because you would expect this to be higher, right? For the other engineering jobs to be around double this. You'd expect it to be higher, but it's only about 25. So that's something to look out for. HR manager quite high, 42, so just over double the average. So that's quite good, HR manager. IT manager, again, very low. So it's very interesting to see this, that generally engineering is paid quite well in Taiwan, but possibly for IT or computer related engineering, there is a lower average, right? I imagine due to excess supply of skills. Industrial designer, nothing, nothing amazing in terms of salary. Interior designer, again, nothing to write home about. Lecturer, above average. This would be uh, maybe a little bit on the lower end, I imagine, but it depends, I guess, what kind of lecturing. Marketing manager, quite high, about double the average, and also quite a range in terms of the salary. So we can see actually that it's maybe the average is a bit lower, but with more experience, the pay is higher. Mechanical engineering, quite high. Again, so this is one of the engineering fields that seem to be paid quite well in Taiwan. So this is quite high. Mobile developer, maybe a bit lower than you would expect. Again, computer related, tech related, seems to be on the lower end. Nurse, around average. Office manager, around average as well. Operations manager, this again would be something you expect to be quite high. So that's about, I guess, in line with your expectation, right? Pharmacist, very high, actually, very high, relatively speaking. So clearly, so far, we've seen dentist and pharmacist to be very, very high, right? These two have ranked very highly. Physician, that's very strange. That's very strange. For dentist and pharmacist to be very high, but physician to be very low. It's very strange. If anyone knows why that is, yeah, please leave a comment because it's kind of baffling to me. Maybe there's a shortage of people going into study, specifically being pharmacist or a dentist. That's about the only reason I can think of. Postdoctoral researcher, oof, not great. Let's continue. Product manager, I mean, yeah, what you'd expect. QA engineer, nothing amazing. Receptionist, above average. Research scientist, yeah, also above average. Sales manager, quite good. So I would imagine this to be coming with experience. You'd be paid higher. Software engineer, not as much as you would expect, hey? Not as much as you would expect. So above average, but much lower than other engineering branches. Systems administrator, quite low, up below the average. Teacher, um, in between the low and average, although this one, it's worth noting that as a foreign teacher, your salary will be much higher than the average. So this would be a teacher, a local, let's say a local Taiwanese teacher would maybe earn about this median salary. But for a foreign teacher, you could expect to get a bit more than this, maybe in the region of 20 to 25,000 US USD. That's the average, but it would depend. UX designer, about average. Waiter, not great, sort of close to the low end. Web designer, again, is about average. It's above average, but not very highly paid relatively to other countries, right? Anything in sort of computer and tech, not very highly paid. Although web developer, for some reason, is higher than web designer. Um, yeah, so that's about 40. Okay, so looking at them compared here in a list, let's sort of take it from the top. So we saw that dentist was at the top, right? That's actually very interesting. So dentist at the top, pharmacist at number three. We're not too worried about C-level executive because we would expect that to be near the top or at the top, right? But dentist and pharmacist coming in very, very well paid in Taiwan. So that's something I didn't know before I looked at this. And perhaps someone else who's interested in Taiwan will, or interested in coming to work in Taiwan will find this useful to know that dentists and pharmacists and certain types of engineering jobs are quite well paid, quite well remunerated. And I imagine, especially for foreigners in these areas, you would probably have an advantage, right? If you have specific skills that are in need, this is where maybe the salaries would go much higher than this, even um, for a company to bring you over here, right? But maybe not so much in these areas like software engineering, and computer related skills, since it seems like there must be, uh, an imbalance of supply and demand, is an excess supply of software engineers in Taiwan. You can also see the range is kind of interesting. So you can see some jobs have like a smaller range in the salary. Interestingly, pharmacist has quite a small range in the salaries, um, whereas C-level executives have quite a high range in the salaries. So you might expect to earn much more than this average, or possibly, depending on the company, less than this average. Um, so yeah, it's interesting to know. Okay, and then just to cap on the video, obviously this data is, I don't know how unbiased this data is, but I try to find as best of source of data as I could. So I was using this website. Also comparing it to this website, I just took a look to see if the numbers match at all. And from this website, PayLab, you can see a roughly similar salary. So this is looking at dentist. We can see the average is about 70K, right? Which, if we compare back to this site, we saw that dentist was about 76. So some variance, but largely similar. So this could be taking into account the whole of Taiwan, whereas this is just Taipei, or could be, some differences with the data. But yeah, that was just about what I wanted to cover in this video. So if you have any other information you would like to share about a job situation in Taiwan for foreigners, I would be very interested to hear it. Yeah, I just wanted to start the discussion and post this video since I didn't find any videos going over average salaries in Taiwan um, for foreigners anyway. Yeah, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you around.